Have you ever stopped to think why some ideas spread like wildfire while others die in silence? Why certain words can flip beliefs, rewrite loyalties, and push ordinary people to do unthinkable things? What if I told you this isn't random? What if there was a manual for it? Because there was, and parts of it are no longer secret. During the Cold War, the CIA wasn't just fighting enemies with weapons. They were fighting with minds. Fear was the battlefield. Psychology was the weapon. And control was the objective. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is declassified history. In the 1950s, the United States was terrified of one thing above all else. Not bombs, not tanks, but brainwashing. American prisoners returning from the Korean War were confessing to crimes they didn't commit, denouncing their own country, praising communism to U.S. intelligence. This was impossible unless the mind itself could be hacked. That fear gave birth to one of the most disturbing programs in modern history, MKUltra. Officially, MKUltra was a research project. Unofficially, it was a psychological arms race. The goal was simple and terrifying: find ways to control human behavior. Not influence, control. The CIA wanted to know how to break a person down, how to erase identity, how to implant ideas, how to force obedience without chains. And they spared no one: college students, soldiers, prisoners, patients in mental hospitals, ordinary citizens who never consented. They were dosed with LSD, kept awake for days, isolated in sensory deprivation chambers, subjected to intense interrogation techniques. Why? Because the CIA believed the mind could be stripped down like a machine, disassembled, reprogrammed, and rebuilt. One of their core beliefs was simple: break the personality first, then insert a new one. This concept didn't come from nowhere. It was inspired by what the CIA believed the Soviets and Chinese were already doing. So they pushed further, harder, darker. They studied not stage hypnosis, deep hypnosis, the kind that blurs the line between consciousness and obedience. They studied trauma because trauma fragments identity, and a fragmented mind is easier to shape. They studied repetition because the brain accepts familiarity as truth. Say something enough times and resistance collapses. This wasn't science fiction. It was written in internal memos, training documents, psychological frameworks. One declassified report stated that the human mind, under the right conditions, could be made to accept almost any belief, not through logic, but through emotional overload. Fear, stress, confusion. When the brain is overwhelmed, it stops questioning. It looks for relief, and whoever offers that relief becomes the authority. This is where the real lessons begin, because while MKUltra was officially shut down, the principles never disappeared. The CIA learned that people don't need to be convinced. They need to be You don't argue with beliefs. You weaken the structure, holding them. Conflicting information, contradictory messages, constant urgency. When everything feels unstable, the mind seeks certainty. Uncertainty often comes from power. This is why the CIA obsessed over media, news framing, language selection, emotional triggers. They discovered that people don't remember facts. They remember feelings. A calm voice creates trust. A confident tone creates authority. A repeated narrative becomes reality. One internal study showed that people exposed to the same idea from multiple sources believed it was common knowledge. even when it was false. Sound familiar? The manual didn't say control people. It said shape perception. Because perception creates behavior. If you control how someone interprets reality, you don't need to control their actions. They'll do it themselves. Another disturbing finding involved isolation. Humans are social creatures. Remove social reinforcement, and beliefs weaken. Identity dissolves. This is why isolation was a key technique. Solitary confinement. Cutting off familiar voices, replacing them with controlled input. The brain, starved of connection, becomes subject. Then came sensory overload. Bright lights, loud noises, constant stimulation. The mind becomes exhausted. Critical thinking shuts down. Compliance increases. This wasn't about intelligence. Smart people broke faster than others because and exhaustion punished them harder. The CIA learned that intelligence doesn't protect you from manipulation. Awareness does. And here's the most uncomfortable truth. You don't need drugs. You don't need prisons. You don't need labs. The modern world does most of this automatically. Endless notifications, conflicting headlines, fear-based messaging, constant urgency. Your brain never rests. And a tired brain is a programmable brain. One declassified psychologist involved in MKUltra later admitted something chilling. The most effective control doesn't feel like control. It feels like choice. When people believe they arrived at an idea on their own, resistance disappears. This is why suggestion outperforms force. The CIA studied advertising, political speeches, mass movements. They found that stories override logic, symbols override facts, emotion overrides truth. A single powerful image could outweigh 1,000 statistics. That's not accidental. It's psychological architecture. Even language was weaponized. Words like freedom, security, threat, and safety were tested for emotional impact, not meaning impact. The brain reacts before it thinks, and once emotion is triggered, rational analysis becomes secondary. This is why fear-based messaging works so well. Fear narrows focus, simplifies choices, creates urgency. And urgency kills skepticism. Another principle from the manual was authority reinforcement. People obey perceived authority even when it conflicts with their morals. This was proven repeatedly. Uniforms, titles, institutional symbols, the mind shortcuts trust when authority is present. This is why official language feels more believable, even when it's vague, even when it avoids details. The CIA didn't invent these principles. They documented them, refined them, systematized them, and once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it, because these techniques aren't locked in a vault. They're everywhere. Social media algorithms reward emotional reactions, not truth, not nuance. Outrage spreads faster than reason. Fear spreads faster than facts, and repetition creates belief. The manual also warned about something few people talk about: self-programming. When people voluntarily expose themselves to reinforcing narratives, control becomes internal. No coercion needed, no force required. People defend the very ideas that limit them. This was considered the holy grail of influence. Make the subject believe the control is freedom. So what's the real lesson here? It's not that the CIA was evil masterminds. It's that the human mind is more fragile than we like to admit. We are pattern-seeking, emotion-driven, socially influenced. And under the right conditions, anyone can be manipulated, including you, including me. The difference is awareness. Once you understand the mechanics, the spell weakens. You start noticing framing, repetition, emotional hooks. You ask different questions. Who benefits from this fear? Who gains from this urgency? Why this message right now? That's the antidote. Not paranoia, not rejection of everything, but conscious consumption. Because the most dangerous manipulation isn't hidden. It's normalized. The CIA's mind control experiments failed in one way. They never achieved perfect control, but they succeeded in something else. They mapped the weaknesses of the human mind, and those weaknesses didn't disappear when the program ended. They became tools used by governments, corporations, media, and anyone who understands influence. This isn't about the past. It's about the present. Every time you scroll, every time you react, every time urgency overrides thought, the manual is being applied. Not in secret labs, but in plain sight. The question isn't whether mind control exists. It's whether you recognize it when it's happening, because the strongest chains are the ones you can't see. And the most powerful prison is the one you believe you chose. If this opened your eyes even a little, you already took the first step. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and most importantly, stay conscious. Because once you see the system, it loses its grip.